The DIESOL podcast.
Digital integration in English as a second or other language.
Episode 22. Flipgrid for ELLs.
Welcome to DIESOL, episode 22. We are your hosts. I am Brent Warner.
I'm Ixchell Reyes.
Hi, Ixchell. How are you?
Pretty good. What's going on?
My semester is starting, and we are running right into things, and so my head's spinning right now.
I just got done coordinating a webinar for DIESOL 2, and that was amazing. It was really good. And one of the topics that was like super popular was Flipgrid.
Yes.
So
we are here, and we have guests to talk about Flipgrid. Now, we've talked about Flipgrid on the show quite a few times, like in passing and little bits of it. But today, with the new announcements and everything, big new launch for Flipgrid, lots of new things coming through, and I'm sure coming down the line too. We have with us Anne, Kozma, and Luis Oliveira. Anne, let's start with you. How are you?
Hey friends, I'm so glad to be here with you. Thank you for inviting us on the podcast.
Yes, thank you
for exciting. Coming. You guys are the first guest of the second year of DIESOL.
That's true.
Oh, hey, that's cool.
Ah.
Yeah. So hey, there's that's good. And Luis, how are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for having me.
And then can I ask, is it Luis or Louis?
I'm Portuguese, so it's Luis, but the only person is my mother. And
I know.
I'm in trouble, so I just go with Louis.
Okay.
Perfect.
Great. And so let's just clarify, just make sure that we understand your roles. So we're having the open conversation around Flipgrid and everything, but we've got two. I think this is actually the first time we've had two proper guests on, right?
Yeah.
Too.
This is the first time we've had more than. Yeah.
Awesome. So let's start with Anne then. Anne, what is your role? And tell me what you know about Flipgrid. Tell me everything you know about Flipgrid.
I was going to say 2 guests means double the fun. So yes. I'm so excited today. So I actually work for Flipgrid. My role is called an Educator Innovation Lead. And what that means when I explain to people is I'm a teacher helping teachers. So I spent 17 years in Southern California as a classroom teacher and a teacher on special assignment. And a couple years ago, took this new role with Flipgrid, getting to share, celebrate, and showcase and help others as they're using Flipgrid to empower every voice in their learning community. And I love to say I'm a teacher helping teachers. So I work alongside Jess Boyce and Jornay Armand, and we are the Educator Innovation Leads on Team Flipgrid.
Awesome.
So cool. I'm like starstruck right now.
Well, and you and I actually know each other from before you started working at Flipgrid through Q.
That's so cool.
We go way back, more than a handful of years, I'd say, because of Q in California, and have had some epic conversations over the years about Edtech and tech integration and how you can shift the teaching and learning. And I know we've even shared a pretty epic hamburger too.
Oh, yes, I know. So I stole Anne's hamburger at Q very late one night, and she was very gracious in I'm like, I'm so hungry. It was, I'll admit that I had a drink or two, and I was like, I'm so hungry. And Anne just walks by with this hamburger, and I'm like, are you going to eat that? It took me a year or two, but I did finally pay you back and got you something else in the future, right?
I know, it was and I remember sitting and laughing, and we had an awesome time. And I mean, we're better together, so why not have epic conversations and epic hamburger shares?
Yes, indeed. Right. So, and Louis, tell us a little bit about your background and what you do too.
Well, so I'm one of those teachers that are helped by Anne and the rest of the crew at Flipgrid. I actually have a couple hats. My official title at Middletown High School in Middletown, Rhode Island is Director of Unified Arts, which basically means I'm in charge of most of the electives at the high school. But I also work with English language learners. So part of the day I'm doing some administrative stuff, and the rest of the day I'm doing what I love most, which is working with the international students. I've also, I coach soccer for 28 years, and I'm a technology integration coach at the district as well.
Awesome. So, perfect fit here because, of course, what we do is we talk about ELLs and how we can help use tech to support all of them. And so Louis, I think you're probably going to have a lot of really good insights for us because this is particularly what we're looking for. Is a lot of times people talk about like, this is cool tech, right? Like Flipgrid and all of these things. And as I mentioned, we've talked about Flipgrid, and Ann knows I kind of do ups and downs. Like I've got like, okay, this works really well, and then I'm like, I want this other thing to go on. And so but sometimes I'll have little issues, and sometimes things go really well for me. And so I'm really interested to hear, especially from like the high school perspective too, working with students, how everything goes. So I think we should just jump into it. Louis, can you tell us a little bit about like what you're doing or how you might use or when you start thinking about Flipgrid and using it with your ELLs, how are you customizing it? How are you working it for them?
All right. So that could be an hour and a half response. I'll see what I can do.
And you can go take a break now.
As simple as possible. I actually use Flipgrid not only with my high school ELLs, but I also I teach a technology course at Roger Williams University that is designed for future teachers. It's technology for secondary ed teachers. So I use it with quite a range of age groups and in many different ways. So that's why, like I said, it could go on for a week because there's so many different ways, but there are some general ways and general reasons why I use Flipgrid. The most important for me is it doesn't matter the age of the student, it gives them a voice. It doesn't matter if they just arrived in the country as a newcomer or if they've been here for 4 or 5 years or more. It gives me the flexibility of having the students respond in their first language or respond in English at whatever level they happen to be at that moment. And the reason I use it is because it does give my students that voice, but with a comfort level, because they're able to use the app and, go in the hallway or use the laptop and go in the hallway, go outside if the weather is okay, do it at home, wherever they're comfortable. Having been an English language learner myself, I remember how difficult it was in the beginning to get up in front of a class and have to perform in English when I was ready. They talk about that silent period. It's not a myth, it's real. There is a time that students need to feel comfortable enough to put themselves out there. And what I found with Flipgrid is that it's pretty much shortens that silent period because the students have the ability to record themselves as many times as they want. Some of them are perfectionists. They want it to be perfect before they'll let it out to the world. And they can record and re-record. And, if they're shy, there's all the tools that allow them to, pixelate or use emojis and cover themselves or not even show their face at all. So it gives so much flexibility into being able to have the students give their voice. So I use it from introductions to former students giving, letting us know how they're using English in the real world, to simple things like we just read a book or we just read a short story. Tell me what you thought of it. What would you do differently if you were the author? We've done things from trying to connect with authors around the world to very simple things like we just came back from vacation. What did you do? Thanksgiving is coming up. Who are you thankful for? What are you thankful for? So reflection is a big piece. Reflection is a huge part of Flipgrid because I'm able to get student thinking, student responses at their comfort level. And I can't forget to say all the accessibility features. The Immersive Reader in Flipgrid, along as it is in many of products, it is one of the main reasons why I use it, because they can translate things into their language. They can, they can use the picture dictionary and see what's going on if they don't understand the word. It's absolutely incredible.
The immersive reader part is amazing. Yeah.
Right.
Let's talk about that in a little bit. Ixchell,
Yeah.
I was going to say, there it is, because that to me is one of the most powerful tools I have ever experienced in my life. And I love that it is fully embedded throughout Flipgrid. It's just there if anybody wants to use it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And we're all over here nodding our heads together.
Those of us that have learned English as a second or third language, or whatever the case may be, are so jealous that we wish we had it.
When you bring up like the flexibility piece, I think that's one of the things I love so much about Flipgrid. And I talk about this all the time. They're learning pathways. So if you're an English learner, or you're acquiring a second language, or you're developing your oral language fluency in anything that looks different compared to the learning modalities we all have as individuals, as learners. So those creative, all of the creativity tools built into the camera, and you said it, and it's a brilliant point, the flexibility provided, because consider those different comfort levels. And I just love that, the ability for folks to use this in any way, whether it's, gaining a new skill or boosting confidence. So I loved hearing what you said, Louis.
Yeah, Louis, and I love that you mentioned that you allow your students to respond in their first language, because, as you said, that silent period is very real. And I'm an English learner. I'm still learning a lot of stuff. My first language is Spanish, and allowing students to build that confidence first, because recording your voice is a scary thing, right? And I'm wondering, how do you see that your students will then transition into having more confidence in trying something out in English, or how do you see that growth over time?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that, because I wanted to make sure, because I didn't mention it in my first response, I wanted to make sure that I spoke about mixtapes. I see it.
Mixtapes, yes.
So are you familiar with the mixtapes?
I am not familiar, so I want to break down on it.
Our audience may not know what our mixtapes are, so please tell us.
I've seen the tab, and I'm like, I haven't clicked on it yet, so I get a whole introduction right now.
All right. So one of the amazing things that I find every day is how people use the tools within Flipgrid and all other digital tools and make it their own. The way I use Mixtapes, and Dan can jump in, please, if you have other thoughts, but I use Mixtapes as a oral proficiency portfolio. Ooh. So I use, lots and lots and lots of Flipgrid topics. And my students respond throughout the year. They come in September or possibly August this year. We're not sure yet. But they come in and they do an introduction. They introduce themselves. They jump in and they respond to the messages that last year's students left for them, both to help them get around to school, but also giving them some advice. And as they do these different topics, they'll do the Thanksgiving, giving thanks. The Martin Luther King Day, they'll, we do a little topic on that as well. And throughout the year, we'll do topics. Each time they do one, I just have created a mixtape for each one of them, just like in the old days when you put all the songs together. And it's become so easy to do now that it's like the minute you look at a student video, you can just add it to the mixtape, and it's super, super simple. And what happens is, over time, I'm able to see what they did in September and October, November, all the way through the end of the school year in June. And not only can I see the growth, more importantly, the students can see the growth, because one of the things that they lack is confidence in their ability to use the language. When they can jump into their own mixtape and see that in September they were recording in Arabic or Spanish or Portuguese or whatever the language happens to be. And then by, December, they're already starting to dabble with the English. And by June, they actually are communicating pretty nicely in English. That gives them a confidence boost that is almost impossible for me to do by myself. I can tell them 1,000 times that their English is improving.
Yeah. I was just going to say, oh man, the times that students will say, but I don't really feel like I'm improving. Yeah. But it's, when you are able to measure by looking at your own work. How powerful is that to have a curated timeline of your language acquisition or growth? Yeah, language growth.
Definitely. And for educators, it's also a nice, easy way to, as part of the evaluation system, we have to show what we're doing. I have a report showing of my students' oral proficiency. So when I sit with my evaluators, during the evaluation cycle, and my goal for the year is to increase my students' oral performance, I don't really have to say much during that meeting. All I do is give them the videos, let them click on it, and see the students growing as the year goes on. So it's pretty cool to use it that way as well.
I was going to say, this is like a perfect example of what a mixtape is. It's that highlight reel. It's those moments that you document. So everything that you just said, Louis, it's like documenting growth over time and having students have the ability to go back and see, this is where I was at the beginning of the year, mid-year check-in, end of the year. It is that epic highlight reel. So whether it's oral language, proficiency or even fluency, Brent, you said, what is it? Click that button, my friend, click that button. Because a mixtape can be anything. Oral language, it could be reading acquisition skills. I taught first grade. 87% of my students were English learners. So going back and listening to a oral reading in August or September and compare it to the end of the year during a parent-teacher conference, during a goal setting or review, tons of possibilities to document and celebrate the progress, right?
Yeah, I love that idea. I mean, this is a little bit selfish on the teacher's point of view, but like, not selfish, but like when you have to go through those observations and those things, it's like you sometimes you get to the end of the semester and you're like, they're better, I believe me, but like you don't have to even say believe me. It's like you can blast that up on the big screen TV in front of your administrators and just show it to them, right? That's such a cool idea.
You can be more specific about certain things. I know sometimes in my institution, they might ask, okay, give me very specific evidence as to their growth. And, when you've got a class, a lot of students or a lot of other tasks, it's often you generalize and you don't want to do that for an individual student if they've been able to grow in an area. But having that there, again, it's curated and you can take a look and you can also see over time if there are patterns or within different groups. And so I think as an instructor, that's just such a powerful feature to have.
Definitely. Yeah. It's also reflective for the teacher. I know that I go in there and I look to see how my students are responding, and sometimes I pick up on things that I might have missed otherwise. That 5 of the students made the same error, so I need to address this. Something's going on here. So it's also a good way to reflect on what we're doing as educators.
And the brilliant nature of the flexibility, it could be a play to learn. Let's have fun. This first opportunity is going to be for you to, explore the language, use the sentence frames, document vocabulary progress, anything. But when you talk about that success criteria, if you're paying attention to the listening, the reading, the speaking, there's a text tool within Flipgrid as well. So for writing, you could have play-based, fun, silly, topics for that experience, and then have topics for the assessment piece or the documentation piece. So it comes back again to just the flexible nature of how you can use it and make it work for you in whatever way you want it to.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure that I'm following up on this too. So Louis, when you're saying that you're watching those students' growth with mixtapes, then you are creating a mixtape for each student. So there's is that like, Junsu, here's your mixtape, and then here's the thing, here's my favorites of what you've done over the semester or whatever it is, or is that how it works for you?
Exactly. So I have if you go into that section that says mixtapes, and it says create a mixtape, you just create one for each one of your students, and you just put in the videos as you receive them, you put them in, and it's literally a click of the mouse to get them from, where it lives into the mixtape. So awesome. It's super, super easy. One of my happiest days with Flipgrid was when they created the ability to do that, because I used to literally create a folder for each one of my students and download each one of the videos.
I used to do that too. Yes, I know.
Hours and hours and hours to get it done. And then like magic, it became a simple click.
Yeah. Man, so many cool features with Flipgrid. So many areas to explore. I wanted to follow up on something that you mentioned earlier. With your high school students, you said that sometimes you read books and you want to maybe connect with authors around the world or writers. What does that look like? Can you speak more about that?
Sure. And for example, we read The Outsiders. And S.E. Hinton is one of my favorite authors. And so we read the book and we do all the activities that we normally associate with it. The reading comprehension, the making sure they understand the theme and the plot and the sequencing and all of that. But then what I had the students do was, again, that reflective piece was, tell me what you thought about the book. What did you like about it? What would you have done differently if you were the author? And then we actually reach out to S.E. Hinton because I found her on Twitter. And, I shared the students' responses about the book with her. And unfortunately, she did not respond, which was kind of disappointing. Yeah. But, there are authors that do and authors who don't for a variety of reasons. But it doesn't make a difference to me because it was the students being able to put out their thoughts and putting it out to the world and having others see what they were thinking, and the fact that they were comfortable enough to put it out to the world was a big piece for me. That was what was most important to me. We have a graduation requirement, which we call the capstone, and part of that requirement, the students have to present their topic to a group of judges who sit and evaluate them. And this is a graduation requirement. And, part of the rubric is going to talk about eye contact and presentation skills and all that. And whether my students realize it or not, throughout the year, as they're recording these Flipgrids, they're working on their presentation skills. They're getting the confidence to get up in front of others. And, it's easy for me to say, Maria, do you notice that your eye contact needs a little work? You always look down, or you always look up, or you say the word like an awful lot. And I can also use my videos to show them that it's a work in progress, that as a second language learner myself, I also have things that I work on constantly. I'm going into my 30th year, and sometimes I feel like I just started yesterday. So it's important for us to reflect and to show the kids that, hey, mistakes are part of life.
Absolutely.
I love all this. It's funny that this idea about the author thing. We read a book called Funny in Farsi by Firuzeh Dumas, and she's from this area, but she's also an Iranian immigrant and all these stories. But in the past, I've tweeted out some of I did have my students do some art around their understanding, and I tweeted it out, and she was highly responsive. She's like calling out my students' names. She's like, go for it, keep on going, and so when you can find someone like that who is responsive on top of that too. I hadn't thought about doing a video and having the students describe their art on a video or something like that, but I'm definitely going to do it this semester now that you mentioned it as a Flipgrid idea, because then it's just open that up, make it clickable for the author or whoever might be interested in, and see the whole thing. That's really cool.
Oh, see,
if they take us up on it, great. If they don't,
the work is done. They had an audience. It was an authentic experience either way.
Yeah, and my brain is thinking okay, now what is an extension from that? It's design a new book cover, talk about whether it's a cultural celebration or something from your family or your geographic location, and design that using the elements within Flipgrid. Or I know another educator in Brooklyn, Yuritsa Vijaba, is doing record covers from
cool.
a CD.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, but you think about it, it's the oral language fluency, it's the expression, it's the academic language or the descriptive language. and so much opportunity to practice in these creative ways.
I love that.
Right.
Well, and we this is a perfect opportunity to talk a little bit, because we wanted to talk about the new things that are going on with Flipgrid. I mean, just like huge rollout, huge new things, like all sorts of changes going on, making things better. And you know, one thing we always have to say about Flipgrid is how responsive you guys are to like listening to actual teachers.
Yep. It's like they're listening.
Yeah,
they're listening. The work is going on behind the scenes.
Well,
Yeah. So, Anne, please share with us a bit about like what you're excited about, what you're seeing going on, and if you can tie it for us for ELLs and everything else, that's even better.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, like, the feedback we get from the community is so meaningful and it's so valuable. And we're thankful when people share the success stories. We're thankful when people share a pain point, because we want to continue to build forward to support you. We are inspired every single day by the incredible things we see educators doing. And specifically, like, for English language learners, we see examples of the way you're using Flipgrid to boost confidence or practice that oral language fluency, whether it's for one of those, you know, those state-tested language proficiency exams, practicing speaking and listening, developing wait time, responding to like a specific skill or strategy. But Louis said it at the beginning, the pathways, the flexibility. So some of the new features that I'm like over the moon excited about as an educator. Of course, I love the fun nature of the frames and filters, that breaking news frame you can add any custom text box to.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that was in there.
Yeah, like you could just have it as a text overlay to individualize the topic. So it could be a specific area of focus you're working on. I, of course, am obsessed with emojis and the power of an emoji. In my first grade classroom as a K-8 TOSA, I said, don't discount emojis, because why? It's descriptive language, it's figurative language, it's visual support for an English learner or language acquisition. That text tool within Flipgrid, and of course, tons of creative fonts for everybody to choose from. But that's just an additional visual support, right? But come back to some of those lesser known features. There is under the ... some like mirror options where you can mirror the effect. So almost like you're conducting an interview for yourself.
And role play.
Oh yeah. So yes. So
like while you're recording, flip it so you're like kind of facing this way, click, and then you're kind of facing that way type of thing.
Yep, exactly. So that could be practicing language while you're interviewing yourself. Just in a
cool.
fun.
I hadn't thought of that as doing it live, like doing it live while you're recording and just tapping it and flipping where you. Oh, that's okay.
And so, Brent, to tap something, the power of the pause button. I mean, that could be stop motion video, a paper slide video, tons of.
I had not thought about stop motion.
Yeah, and don't discount that new split screen thing.
Yeah, that's split screen.
I do want to talk about that for sure. Can you tell us a little bit about that so that people can understand what's going on with the flip screen or split screen and how it might be used?
Okay, so under the board feature, you have all of these creative boards. There's solid backgrounds, a whiteboard, a blackboard, a galaxy, rainbow, this dotted paper, graph paper, lined paper. So any academic content area, you in the creation tool, while you're using the Flipgrid camera, can choose that board feature and then toggle the split screen. Even on a mobile device, you just pull down from the top on mobile and side to side on that web-based tool. And so the split board could allow you to be on screen for video or any other element. And then using the board feature, the text, the emojis, all those other effects, there's a live drawing tool. You can annotate all over the screen. So not only for teaching or instructional videos, documenting how to solve an equation, the steps for something, but I think about in English learning, what if there is text on the screen or a sentence frame or a prompt, and then you have that speaking skill that you're addressing. I know things like talking about a scene or a picture, you could use that picture upload. Discussing information, speaking and sharing your opinion. Retelling narratives, anything that you're doing to work towards those specific skills,
Very, very cool. Very exciting. Very exciting.
There's a lot to think about. Sorry.
I cannot wait to use the split screen. I've been playing around with it. A little while ago, Portugal won the World Cup. Something I've been waiting for a long, long time. When you have the ability to do your own news broadcast, you can make it happen.
Okay, that's a great point, though. Utilizing a real life event, a sporting event, a musical event, a breaking news story. So if we think about how those trigger creative ways to engage with language, it's all about, to me, it's creating, it's pathways, and it's I saw the transformation in my own classroom. It's when students invest in a completely different way. The ownership for learning, the engagement for learning, the retention of information, all of that is transformed when we give them the opportunities to create, right?
Yeah, you know what I'm thinking right now as you're talking about all these things, especially I love the breaking news one because it allows them to shift out of their role, right? And so they suddenly, I'm not a language learner, I'm a broadcaster, or I'm a, and it's inside of their head, but it's an important shift because then they don't get necessarily as caught up on some of the issues that they might otherwise. And then I'm thinking now, students could read it. So we do Newsella in my classes. And so students could read a Newsella article, make sure that they understand it. And then they are responsible for doing the broadcast version of that article and showing me through a breaking news, a story that they had picked up from AP or Reuters or whatever it is. Right. And so then they could have the multiple processing on understanding that news. Cause a lot of my students now are just like, I want to talk about things that are happening now in the world, right? I mean, it's just like, there's so much stuff that they're not getting the chance to process or to talk about. And I think these are great chances.
Yeah. And so talking and processing from the perspective of somebody else, that levels up the challenge immediately, right? But with these effects, one of the coolest things I've seen shared was, of course, on Twitter by Kamalpreets, who is an awesome educator out of India. And she has her daughter, who's an older elementary age student, use all of the new filters, the new features, the Giphies inside of Flipgrid as well. And she, in her first recording, became an artist, a disco dancer, a scuba diver, a peace princess, a news reporter, a field journalist, a video game character, a Lego character, a ninja, a fashionista, a fairy in a magical garden, a jungle explorer, and a unicorn. So no matter if it's elementary, high school, secondary, post-secondary, I mean, the possibilities are endless, and sometimes that might feel overwhelming to hear. And I just come back to encouraging folks, play to learn, push all the buttons. There is no right or wrong way to use Flipgrid, and you can make it work for you in any way. And I just have to say, of course, not only because I work for them, but as an educator who loves free stuff, Flipgrid is 100% free, right? It's also completely unlimited. We've never had an educator reach, this is the max grids, max topics. It's unlimited. So
that is
the
a
fact
big deal.
That is a
and
big deal.
This got so many of my
It's a
teachers
big
this
deal.
semester because now we're coming back and we're completely remote, right? And so I've got all my teachers coming up and saying, Brent, have you heard of Flipgrid? And yeah, I've heard of it. And they're like, can I use it? Do we need to sign up for it? And I'd say, no, I mean, you need to make an account, but you don't need to sign up and all of these things. And so they're like, oh, I can just start using it. And that's a big deal for a lot of people. I mean, it really changes what their, it's a roadblock for a lot of people when they go, I have to pay, or I have to figure out a way to pay. In my school, when we pay for something, it takes 6 months or 8 months to get that whole thing processed, right? And get it like, okay, now we're ready to go, or a semester at least. And so, yeah, the free option is free option. The free is not an option. It must be free.
I come back to thinking, and this is actually written, and I have it and I'll share it for the show notes. Omar Lopez, who's an incredible educator in Southern Texas, has this sketch note, Empower Your English Language Learners with Flipgrid. And he has in the bottom corner, not only the reminder that every voice matters, but Flipgrid allows the opportunity to provide multiple opportunities for success, and do-overs are okay. In life, what happens if I mess up? I just keep going, right? What happens if I sneeze while I'm talking? I keep going. What happens if I don't know the word for it? I try and describe it. So as we think about all these ways to level up, like the opportunities for our students to share, I just always come back to this overwhelming sense of happiness and hope because of those pathways, right? And I was a visual learner. Give me a picture and I could write about it for days. But listening and just the auditory piece is so powerful as a component. But man, if you ask me to listen for 5 hours to something, I'm going to barely remember any of it. And the repetition and the do-over and the practice and the fun that can be included when you create something. I talked about this as a TOSA all the time. Students don't emotionally invest in worksheets, but when you give them the opportunity to create something, everything is transformed.
And there's a connection, a personal connection. And I'm so glad that you mentioned pathways. You mentioned the ability to do over and, the power that you have with that pause button or re-record. And so this question maybe is for both of you. Brent and I both work with adult learners. And so oftentimes we might, at least my experience has been like, no, adults aren't going to want to use that, or no, it's too hard for us. We're not the generation for that. And of course, we've seen it change because we introduce it. But what would be maybe your approach to, what's your approach to using it with adults? And how do you see, over time that this indeed does work for any age group?
I can jump in. Adults are just big kids.
I agree.
Let's face it. When I first started using it with the university students, I worried about that same thing. And, when I mentioned that on day one of the semester, they were going to do an introduction Flipgrid. So to get used to the program, many of them had never seen it before. Some of them were like, oh, but I don't like to be on camera and, all the excuses here. And they went off to do their little recordings, and it didn't take very long before they were all having a ball. It just, with adults especially, we have to just model. Like usually when I do a topic with adult learners, I begin by, in my topic, including a video of me and showing them, hey, look, there I am. And I don't love to get up in front of people and come off as differently, but I'm a pretty shy person. And that all comes from having learned the language and being forced to speak it before I was ready. No, it doesn't go away.
Me too. Absolutely. Yeah. I hear you.
So, but if you show them that it's okay to kind of laugh at yourself, and if you show them that, there are no consequences to mistakes, that we just want to hear what they're thinking, then they tend to grab it pretty quickly. One of the things that I love about Flipgrid is the ability to have a topic or a group. And I didn't say grid, I said group. Having it be as open or as closed as needed. With my English language learners, I have students whose parents say, my son or daughter cannot be on video.
Right, absolutely.
I need one with a password that only that student and I see. And what often happens is at the beginning, they are not showing their faces, or they just record their voice and it's totally protected. And little by little, the parents realize this is safe. This is okay. My son or daughter is growing. I can hear them grow with their English learning. And I've had students that start out on completely locked grids at the beginning of the year and are fully open by the end. And there are some that stay in that protected grid protected group the entire time. And now that we can just do topics without having to set up the group and just do individual topics with the new updates, that makes it even easier because you could just set up a topic for each one of the students.
Yeah, and I love that, Louis, that you're using, whether it's video moderation or a private topic, a private group. When I think about using Flipgrid with adults, that's how I started with it. I was already a TOSA when I had first started using Flipgrid in 2017. And so I was using it with the teachers in my district to reflect on professional learning. The very first Flipgrid topic I ever created, I sent out on Twitter. And it was, what books are you reading right now? But I think about when we use it with adults, if you're using it in your professional capacity, in corporate and enterprise for training, any adult use, we're modeling what lifelong learning is, right? And as educators, we want to demonstrate a growth mindset as well for our students. And hey, I'm willing to take this risk. I'm willing to try something new too. And I love that you have the opportunity to play to learn. And so when I use it with adults, it's always a play-based experience at first, where I put out like a Flipmoji challenge. That's an idea from Kathy Krasnowski, who's an educator and coach out of New Jersey. And it's like, use all the emojis to create a scene, right? That could be a mad scientist's laboratory. It could be an outer space scenario. It could be underwater, but add elements and make it personal to you. And what does that do in the process? It allows educators to push all the buttons, but develop empathy, right? As to what their students might be experiencing while they're using a tool. And I love, again, I'm going to say that word flexibility, because if you don't want to be on camera, you don't have to be. Use the elements, use the filters, use the boards, turn it around, put a sticky note over the camera. You can even toggle off audio. So again, the possibility for a response, no camera, no audio, that's there if you want to create that way. So I just come back to like, give people choice. And as educators are using it, respect the student voice. And if they wish to start on a private grid or topic, that's definitely something that can be an accommodation. And again, it's just the flexibility that I absolutely love.
You know, both of these comments remind me of something. I was in a recent training with Denise Maduli-Williams, who's a teacher down in San Diego, and she's a friend of the show. And one of the things she said was, talking about Flipgrid, she was saying that students might start by sharing a video of a stuffed animal, like their stuffed animal, and like that's the thing that's talking, right? And then they kind of keep going, but as they get more comfortable, like Louis, like you're saying here, and Anne, like you're saying, they start kind of shifting in, and then it's like, now I'm sitting together with the animal, right? And like it's okay for me to show my face and to show the animal, which people have recognized and followed along with that little stuffed animal as like, oh, that is you. And then it's like, no, it starts to become actually you as they feel more confident in their own voice as well. And I was like, when she had said that too, I was like, oh yeah, like, because we don't have to lock it down, right? We don't have to say you must do this and you must do that. There's a lot of creative ways for people to continue to share their voice without necessarily some of the discomfort areas that they're not ready for.
And when that growth is documented over time and showcased in a mixtape, that's a celebration. That's a celebration of the journey that individual went on, and you can see the growth. I mean, there's evidence of the growth.
And I think I want to mention something really important here, that as English learners, and, having when Flipgrid, empowering student voice, right? And if you really think about it, when students have the power to pause and re-record, oftentimes, especially ELs, they don't yet have developed, they haven't yet developed a voice of their own in that language. So as they're repeating, they're also internalizing certain messages. And how great is it to see your one shy student who couldn't stand up for himself or herself to now be able to do that outside of Flipgrid? Because I've had students who are just extremely shy in the language, needed someone to go with them to the office to talk to the counselor, and these are adults, right? So these are adults, and perhaps in their own culture, it's also a difference in a cultural difference. But to then see that student who said, oh, well, I practice on Flipgrid, and now I don't need anyone to go with me to talk about, my transcript or a doctor's appointment or something. That is empowering students' voices.
Well, Ixchell, Louis knows this about me, but maybe you and Brent don't. I cry happy tears every day when I see the examples that educators are sharing on Twitter. So case in point, we've seen folks share about, I introduced Flipgrid, that student spoke. It's December, and I had never heard their voice. We've seen tweets people have shared about students who might have selective mutism, who have never shared their voice before, and now they're gaining confidence and sharing their voice. And oh my God, I know,
I feel them. I've got the goosebumps too, because it's happened with me, and it's like powerful, where someone can have that voice and their voice is heard, and before they didn't have a pathway, they didn't have a way to do that. And I've had, again, adult students who had very severe social anxiety, and the video at the end of the semester was like, wow. And they're just pouring their heart out to you, and they're okay sharing it with the class. How empowering is that?
Yeah,
it's a good transition.
Almost tears in my eyes again right now.
It's not a session if you don't cry at least once.
Yeah.
Heart to heart with DIESOL and Flipgrid.
Well, that's a really good transition to another really important reason why I use Flipgrid, because yes, having my students practice the oral language is my number one goal, because that is what I need to do is give them the skills to be able to function in all of their classes. But at the same time, I'm also worried about them. I'm worried about their social emotional, how things are going at home, how things are going in their other classes. Are they socializing? Are they adapting well and integrating into the school? Are they getting the most out of the school? And a lot of times, students are not comfortable sharing those sort of things in front of a group.
Right.
With their teachers, but I use Flipgrid as a dialogue journal. I have them at the end of each week. They tell me how their week was, how things went in school, how things went outside of school, and it's unbelievable how much they share that I never would have known.
Yeah.
And especially now with remote learning, being able to see the students' face as they're telling you about their week. Is so important, because we don't have too many ways of gauging how they're really doing. So being able to see that they are okay, or that,
and that is so important. That it's
what's going on, and then being able to communicate with that student individually. It just gives them the opportunity to share if they want to share. And of course they have the option.
And of course, as you mentioned, I think part of it, very important right now, is that we teach them a way to process certain things. And if they're doing reflections, that's a way to process what maybe they can't at home or, with the class, the way that we normally would have, because they're not in the school building anymore. So we don't have that chance to help them through it. Those are wonderful stories.
Yeah, I hate to be the taskmaster here because I feel like we've only been going a couple minutes, but we're coming up on an hour here. And there's this is like scratching the surface. There's so much more to talk about.
There's so much.
But we are going to have to shift.
Episode 2, we're going to have
we'll have to have you guys come back
yes.
for sure. So let's do a little shift out here, and we're going to go into our fun finds. So hold on. Okay, so we are moving. We're getting towards the end. So it is time for fun finds, and we've got Ixchell, we're going to have you start off. What is your fun find?
Okay, this time it's kind of a big fun find because, of course, I've been in front of my computer for almost 6 months now, and I've gotten to play a lot with my mobile devices, a lot more than usual, and I have a lot more time to experiment. So I've been doing a lot of video editing and media editing, and I thought it would be the perfect time to get a gimbal stabilizer.
Oh,
and so
look at you.
It was my birthday a few weeks ago, so I decided to go ahead and try that, and I found a very affordable model. It's a $69 with the little tripod stand. It's a handheld. It's very portable. It's small enough if you don't want to carry a bulky one. If this is a starter gimbal for you, a stabilizer, I recommend it. It is the Zhiyun. It's ZHIYUN stabilizer. So if you look them up, they've got various models, but it was affordable. It was something that I could play with and carry in my bag if I needed to, and that's just been so much fun right now.
Nice. You can record your Flipgrids out on the walking down the street and be all stable.
Yeah, they can be That's the thing. It works with anything. So if it's video, again, and that's another thing, you could definitely use it for Flipgrid. Absolutely.
Cool. All right. So mine is I took a few days off and just completely disconnected. I went up to Mammoth and we did a few summer days in Mammoth, and in particular, I think I'm going to recommend Convict Lake. If you ever get a chance to go up to the Mammoth area in Eastern Sierras, Convict Lake is a smaller but just incredibly beautiful and easily accessible lake. So it's just super clear water. Beautiful, great walk around there. And I will also say, for me, important that most of the people were very respectful about the mask thing. So they were even walking around, they were still wearing masks and, just kind of doing their own thing. And so it was a really lovely time to just be disconnected for a few days and not really be thinking about the news or anything else. So my fun find is Mammoth, and then specifically, if you get a chance to get up there, to go to Convict Lake. All right. Let's see. Louis, are you saying Louis? Okay, so Louis, you're up.
Well, that's a good thing because Ann, you're muted, so make sure you unmute before you give us your find. Mine is actually kind of an event. With everything going on in the world right now, like I started to feel very disconnected from both my colleagues, my students, and we've kind of found a new way of reconnecting. And we have this group, our global classroom, that has educators from all over the world. And just being able to every once in a while, do a Zoom and see their faces and hear their voices, and being able to hear how some of, like in Scotland and Australia, how they've returned to their classrooms and how is that going, and, learning some lessons from them. But just being able to see those folks and hear their voices and see their faces, it's been uplifting. And I would highly, highly recommend that to anyone. Connect with your professional learning network. Connect with those folks that give you the strength throughout the year, but just do it just for the heck of it. Just do it just to talk to each other and just to, see how everybody's doing. It's really good for the soul.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a good opportunity to catch up with people for sure. So thank you. All right. Ann.
Love that. I love that, Louis. I love that. Okay. So I recently learned about rebounding, which might sound funny, but what it really means is mini trampoline workouts.
Oh, okay.
So I want to channel my best 1980s Jane Fonda vibe and get a mini trampoline to start these rebounding workouts. And I learned about them on Instagram from Busy Phillips' Insta feed. And she takes this trampoline class, but I've learned it's really good for the lymphatic system. Of course, it's great for cardio. So I'm currently researching, because you can buy an inexpensive mini trampoline, or you can buy one that is almost $1,000, which to me seems incredible, insanely insane. But I'm researching rebounding workouts right now. And I guess I should move the exercise off of Instagram videos to the actual doing of the exercise. So,
I love watching workout videos. They're the best.
Yeah, while I'm eating some chips or something. Yeah, so I am almost ready to purchase my mini trampoline, and I just think not only will it be an epic workout, it'll help me create some balance, some self-care, that mindfulness piece, and it'll be a ton of fun. So why not?
Yeah. You're bringing back the 80s. You've already got the neon pink tank top. You're ready to go. Like, I love it. We're making it happen. Okay,
Awesome.
Very good. Okay, so thanks so much for listening to the show. If you want to get a one-of-a-kind DIESOL pin, please leave us a review. Apple Podcasts would be great, and there are pins available. So keep letting us know what you're doing and if you're sharing the show. We also have our own DIESOL Flipgrid up at flipgrid.com/DIESOL. And if you want to go take a look at some ideas from me and Ixchell and other people, including Anne and hopefully Louis soon, there will be some ideas there. So go to flipgrid.com/DIESOL, DIESOL, and you can look, and you can also leave your own ideas on things that you've been doing to support your learners.
For more on this show, the episode notes and other episodes, you can find us at diesel.org.
That's right. And you can find us on Twitter. I am at Brent G. Warner.
I'm at IXY_PIXY. That's IXY_Pixie. And if you'd like to get in touch with our fabulous guest, you can find Anne at...
Yeah, I'm across all social at Ann Kozma 723, ANNKOZMA 723.
And you can find me on Twitter at L Oliveira 55.
All right.
Ooh,
awesome.
Hit them up, guys. All right. This month we have 5 Mondays, which means our 5th Monday episode's coming up, and that would be Drinks with DIESOL.
Yay!
Yeah, we've had one already. So Drinks with DIESOL is a 1-hour get-together to talk about ESL tech, play some games, win some prizes, have lots of fun with our listeners or other, some of our friends. And so our 5th Monday's coming up, and we're going to have a happy hour open. That's going to take place Friday, August 28th at 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern.
That's right. And this one will be celebrating my birthday a little bit too. So
yeah, so gotta celebrate Brent getting wiser.
Yes,
I think.
I
don't know.
Very
Grayer.
much wiser. Yeah, a whole percentage point wiser. To sign up for that, you can go to diesel.org/drinks. You can put in your name and Twitter handle and email. We're not selling any of this. It's just to remind you of this the show. If you don't want to give your email out for whatever reason. If you sign up within the week of, so August 24th to August 28th, you can still use that same form, and it will just give you a link directly to the Zoom meeting that we're going to be in.
Yeah, so please join us. We're going to have a blast.
Open invite. Yeah, come on in. The party's open.
Mm-hmm.
In Portuguese, thank you is obrigado. Obrigado for turning in to the DIESOL podcast.
Thank you.